Good morning, friends. The poem Where the Mind is Without Fear is written by Rabindranath Tagore. In the previous lecture, we have discussed the poem, its certain parameters, and also Rabindranath Tagore's biography. We came to know that he wrote this poem when India was subjugated by Britishers. Today, let us try to understand its further aspects. First of all, let us see its form and the structure of the poem. Dear friends, the poem is written in free verse. Indeed, no rhyme scheme or no particular meter is followed in writing the poem. You will come to see the first line. The line ends with the sound high, with the word high, and then the second line ends with free. And if you see the third line, fragments, walls, truth, perfection, way, habit, the action, awake. That this particular poem does not follow any rhyme scheme. So the poem is written in free verse. No specific meter is followed in writing the poem. There are certain people who say this poem is a sonnet. I will tell you that this poem, when it was written originally, what you say, Bengali version, you will come to know that this poem is certainly a sonnet. But when this poem is translated into English, the whole poem is only a single complex sentence. Only one man clause at the end and several subordinate clauses beginning with where are found in the poem. You can easily see you have all the subordinate clauses that begin with where, and you have just one man clause, and you can easily find it at the end. That means the entire poem is written in a free verse, and it is not a sonnet at all. It is simply a poem of free verse. Dear friends, let us try to have a cursory look on the summary of the poem, and then we will proceed ahead. Okay, see, this is summary and explanation that is very much visible on your screen. The poem is both a patriotic utterance and a sort of prayer in which the poet enlists the challenges his country is facing and invokes God's grace to remove the plights and troubles of his country. Well, you can easily understand that God's grace, God's help is very important in the poem, because the poem itself is a prayer, and Rabindranath Tagore is trying to invoke God's grace in order to resolve certain plights and troubles of his country. The poem's utopian prayer begins by envisioning a society where people do not have to live in fear and where knowledge is free. Now, when you see this, in the very beginning, you can understand that he is talking of that the knowledge should be given to each and every individual, irrespective of religion, creed, class, and and region. Now he wishes that knowledge should not be restricted only to the upper class people, but everybody should be allowed to acquire knowledge. And at the same time, what he wants to tell the readers that in fact he wishes that his country should be free from any fear of oppression or forced compulsion. He wished that everyone in his country has his head held high in dignity and in some sort of honor. He wants to live in such an Indian country where every person should be fearless and should have a sense of self dignity. Right? That's what he wishes. Then he says, next he seeks a united society where people work hard to attain perfection, not wealth, name, or fame. Right? Now, people should work hard. He says this, people should work hard, but at the same time, they should not work hard only in order to attain or acquire name and fame. Their goal must be work hard in order to serve the country. In order to serve the country. He wants that everyone to work hard to reach their goal and in the long run to reach perfection. He thinks they should not be tired by working. People should not be lazy and they should not ignoring their work. And then he says, in other words, the people should be very benevolent. They should work selflessly. There should be no question of ego in them. The poet asks God to free the minds of his countrymen so that they can break free of their superstitious, blind faith and conservative beliefs and therefore experience a fresh dawn of reason. Now, this is, the line that he is always suggesting. He says that, people's thought should be monitored by rational thinking, not by superstitions or not by blind faiths. Logic should always overrule old baseless beliefs because those beliefs create some sort of narrow mindedness. That is what the entire poem, in the entire poem he is invoking to God, right? Okay, let us move forward. And that was simply a cursory look on the summary of the poem. Let us try to understand the theme of the poem, right? And that too, very briefly. The poem was written when India was ruled by British. Readers, you can see on your screen the theme. The poet's wish for respect and dignity underlines the subjugation of Indians by British rule. The poet's prayer for freedom from the dreary desert sand of habit and release into ever widening thought and action demonstrates that education can be liberating and enlightening force for the masses. And that is very reality. If you talk of education, education is only a tool, only that type of solid tool that will liberate and that will enlighten the entire country. That will act, in order to what you say in order to wave off the dreary desert. It is basically because of education that is going to happen, that is possible only when people are completely getting education. That's why he talks of free education. Now he compares basically the reason or the logic thinking to a clear stream and compares dead habit or superstitious belief to a dreary desert. He wants the stream of reason not to lose its way into the desert of prejudice. In short, I will tell you, people's thought should be monitored by the rational thinking, not by blind beliefs. That is what he is suggesting. and it is only possible when people are educated. The conclusion of the poem also reveals that belief in God's help is the power that can bring about impossible and sustain hope of the subjugated and the downtrodden in times of misery and helplessness. Now, you normally know when this poem is written, India was under the subjugation of Britishers. Now, when it was under the subjugation of Britishers, there were lot of problems. The people are helpless. They are facing lot of miseries. They are suppressed by Britishers, and that's what he wishes. He is praying to God that only one force is the strong force, that is God's help. That is God's help that will liberate the country. The poet further prays is essentially, if you talk of his prayer, is essentially secular, democratic, and inclusive, as he dreams for a world that is not divided on the basis of religion, caste, class. Now you can understand the what is called broad-mindedness. Now he is thinking in very broad and vast terms. He is talking of a world that is not divided into fragments on the basis of religion, caste, and class. Not only his country, but the entire world. The use of the expression "my father" indicates that the poet does not invoke a denominational God. He does not invoke that a denominational God. He invokes, when he's using the expression "my father," it means the God of the world, in other words. Right? Now you can understand his prayer, his belief is unprejudiced. His prayer, his belief is unbiased. That is, basically the theme of the poem. And then let us try to understand further the point of view, what he wants to convey in very brief, in just 2.5 lines. The point of view in the poem is that the shackles of the oppression, superstition, backwardness can be broken by education and God's grace. Now you can understand only two things are there that will break the shackles of oppression, the shackles of superstition, the shackles of backwardness, that is education and God's mercy. When both are possible, then you can remove the oppression, you can remove the suppression, you can remove the subjugation, you can remove blind faiths, you can remove superstitions, and you can also remove the backwardness. That is what Rabindranath Tagore is trying to say in this particular poem. Right? Okay. Let us discuss certain poetic devices. Dear friends, in poetry especially, you have both the areas that are working. One is denotative area and another is connotative area. Denotative area, okay, you can have the meaning of the words, meaning of the phrases. You can call them, the surface meaning or the dictionary meaning normally. If you talk of connotative area, it is area, that is based on number of things, where you are discussing figures of speech, where you are discussing some techniques are there. For example, you have metaphors, you have similes, you have tropes, you have a number of other devices like personification is there, alliteration is there, assonance is there. They're all considered to be, they come under what is called the connotative area. Now here in the poem, we will try to discuss certain, techniques, certain devices that are, undertaken by the poet, and we will discuss them. Now, first of all, on your screen, you can understand you have anaphora. Anaphora. The poem's successive line begins with the word where. Now, what is anaphora? Anaphora. First, let me take you towards the poem where you can easily understand what is called anaphora. Now, see, this is your poem. If you see the poem, you have certain words that are repeatedly used, and that are repeatedly used in the beginning of the verse, in the beginning of the line. For example, if you see the first line, you have the word where the mind is without fear. If you see the line where knowledge is free. If you see third line, you will again see where the world has not been broken up into fragments. If you talk of fifth line, where words come out from the depths of truth. If you see another line, where tireless striving stretched his arms towards perfection. Now, if you see one more line, you can understand where the clear stream of reason. Now, the in the poem, the certain words are used repeatedly and they are used initially. And here the poem is simply the word where. Now the question is why poets are using certain words and they are repeating it time and again, and they are using it especially in the beginning of the verse. And this type of word is considered to be anaphora. They are using it in order to emphasize their ideas. They are using it to tell the entire readers that they want to make stress on certain things. They are using it time and again. They are emphasizing their point of view. That's why he is using the word where. I believe you have understood this poetic technique, what is called anaphora. Now see, on your screen I'm displaying one more device, that is alliteration. Alliteration normally, it is the repetition of initial consonant sounds. Initial consonant sounds. For example, repetition of initial consonant sounds in a verse or in a line. Here you will see the head is held high. Now this is one phrase that is used in the poem. The head is held high. Now you can understand the H sound that is repeated. In head you have H sound, held you have H sound, you have high again H sound, and it is used initially. And if you talk of this particular sound, this is a consonant sound. When consonant sounds are repeated initially, it is considered to be alliteration. See another phrase, tireless striving stretches. Now you have striving stretches. In this phrase, striving stretch, you have this particular sound, st sound, and striving. That's why stretch. Again, there is repetition of this type of sound. Again, a consonant sound is repeated by the poet. Again, another phrase you can understand, dreary desert, sand of dead habitus. Again, you can understand the word D, the sound D. The sound D that is used initially and is repeated time and again. You will see dreary, the first letter is D and the sound is D. And if you see another word, desert, you have again the letter D, the sound D, and again sand of dead. Again you will find the word dead and the sound D initially is used. That's why it's again considered to be the alliteration. And you have one more, freedom, for freedom my father. Now freedom, F sound, father again F. That means again consonant sounds and that are used again initially. That's why they are considered to be alliteration. Now this is another device that is used by the by the writer, by the poet Rabindranath Tagore in the poem. Now again see one more important device that is used by the writer is personification in the poem. Personification is simply when you are giving human traits to some dead objects, or you have an idea and you are trying to give it human traits. When you are giving it human traits, it is obviously considered to be personification. Now here you can understand, tireless striving stretches its arms. Tireless striving stretches its arms. Now tireless is simply a person who is not involved in fatigue, who does not who is not tired at all. Tireless striving stretched its arms. Now you can understand when he is using the word arms, he is giving human characteristics. That's why it is considered personification. Another phrase you can understand, stream of reason has not lost its way. Stream of reason. Reason is that faculty that is that is again a human trait and a human characteristic. That's why he has used the stream of reason. Reason, if you normally see, you have number of things, but you won't find, reasoning is there. For example, if you talk of, you have animal kingdom, you have plant kingdom, and reason is a specific faculty that is, that is basically the trait of humans, and that's why he has used it, and he is giving again the human qualities or the human characteristics to to this that is used in this phrase. Stream of reason has not lost its way. The idea is, if you talk of reason, reason has not lost its way, logic has not lost its way, understanding is always there. And then he says, my country awake. Now you can understand, my country awake. Now in country you have number of things. When he says my country awake, the idea of country, and he is using the word awake. Awaking is obviously a characteristic, a character that is associated with again humans. That's why this is considered to be personification. Now one more important thing, that is symbolism, that is used by the poet in these in this particular poem, right? In the line, where words come from the depth of truth, where the words come from the depth of truth, the poet refers to a state where people speak the pure truth and shun falsehood. Depth of truth always symbolizes the virtue of realizing the deeper meaning of things. Now, readers, you have, two meanings. One is the surface meaning. Normally, you have surface meaning and you understand something. And another is meaning at a deeper level. Now, meaning at a deeper level is again, something which is very, very essential and very important. Now, when he is using the symbol, otherwise, when you normally say, when he is using what he says, where words come from the depth of truth. Depth of truth is simply when your words come from what is called from your heart rather than your tongue, right? It is not always important that what you speak is truth, but when it comes from your heart, then it is considered to be truth. That's why it has a a deeper level of meaning. Deeper level of meaning. That's why depth of truth also symbolize the virtue of realizing the deeper meaning of things. Now here you can understand the narrow domestic walls superficially means the division of land into plots, estates, and households. When you see the surface level, you will come to understand narrow domestic walls. What does it mean? It simply means perhaps the division of land into plots, the division of land into estates, the division of land into households. It is possible, at surface level, this could be the meaning of the phrase. But when you go to the deeper area, you will come to understand it has a very different meaning. It also symbolizes what? India's internal struggle of class, creed, religion, etc. Now, it symbolizes, for example, you have struggle that was going in India. For example, the disparity between Brahman versus what is called Harijanas, or the Dalits versus what is called Brahmanas. You have number of other issues related to religion, issues related to region, issues related to language, issues related to caste, issues related to creed, right? You have different issues, and those issues that are nourishing in India in those days, they are considered to be narrow domestic walls. That is what, when you say narrow domestic walls, it does not mean division of land into plots, estates, or households, but it symbolizes India's internal disturbance with regard to class, creed, color, religion, region, etc. Okay, friends, I am leaving you here. I will meet you in another lecture. Till then, goodbye. May God bless you.